Welcome back everyone, this is the first part of the new Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg created by myself and all of you guys. This is going to get very messy at some point in the near future, so in the description I have credited everyone who made a submission to the Iceberg. If you see your name but your entry isn't mentioned in this video, that just means it will be in a later part. And if you don't see your name and your entry does pop up, that means someone else submitted the same one and they just came up first in the list. This series is going to go on for as long as there are mysteries being submitted or mysteries that I encounter, so if you have something that you want to submit, check out the Google form in the description. Haruchika Miyagi was a son, entrepreneur, and brother. Haruchika, often referred to as Haru, was deeply involved in the world of social media since his time in high school, but just before 9 PM on December 3rd, he shared a cryptic message on his public Facebook account. The power of giving is important. Want to give as much as possible. It's called karma. Little did anyone know that this would be the last communication from Haru. His online presence provided a glimpse into his life leading up to December 5th, 2015. He was associated with several companies and created a diverse range of YouTube videos covering topics from casual bowling with friends to practical tips for saving on utility bills. He also introduced the world to his global trading software, Tensei. He utilized several different platforms to advertise his business and share his personal thoughts. The story of his disappearance begins in Dewey, Arizona, which was about 560 miles away from his home in Utah. What brought Haru to Arizona remains as an intriguing mystery. He had not shared any travel plans, and there were no known connections or ties that would explain his presence in this unfamiliar state. Even stranger were the winding dirt roads he navigated and the unlikely turns he took on the way to the location where he was last seen. His last known location was Medbar Ranch, a property nestled amidst the Arizona landscape. On this evening, he approached a resident asking if he could stay at her home or on her property. And obviously she turned him down. You'd be crazy to let some random stranger into your house all alone. Afterwards, he calmly left the premises. Instead of retracing his steps, he headed north on the property's private drive, crashing through a closed but unlocked gate before vanishing from sight. Approximately 1 hour after the encounter with the resident, the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office received a trespassing report, identifying the man as Haru. Police arrived at the scene and around 7 PM, they discovered Haru's damaged vehicle wedged between some stony wash and a barbed wire fence. Police immediately issued a search involving extra personnel and dogs, but the search yielded no clues regarding Haru's whereabouts. When Haru's parents were notified of his disappearance, they were left utterly speechless. As the news settled in, they started asking questions. Why was he in Arizona? And why Dewey? Where the heck was he even going and why? Whenever someone goes missing, possibilities such as an accident, murder, suicide, or voluntary disappearance come to mind. Haru's actions appeared to be chaotic and out of character, raising questions about his mental state. If he was indeed experiencing a mental health crisis, what happened to him after his vehicle crashed? Did he wander into the wilderness, or did he take cover somewhere in order to hide from a potential killer? Haru has remained missing for nearly a decade at this point. Despite having a stable life, a home, and a strong online presence, he decided to go on a journey that left all of those things behind. At the time of his disappearance, Haru stood at 5 foot 8 inches tall and weighed around 180 pounds. He had brown hair and brown eyes, and he was last seen wearing a blue jacket, blue pants, and Vans-style shoes. Floyd Collins was a man born on June 20th, 1887 in Logan County, Kentucky. He had a natural affinity for caves, nurtured by his upbringing near the famed Mammoth Cave. This early connection to caves ignited a lifelong passion for exploration within Floyd. In 1917, he went on an adventure in the Crystal Cave hidden beneath his family's property. With its unique formations, Floyd saw the potential to turn the Crystal Cave into a tourist attraction. However, the 1920s brought along what was called the Cave Wars in Kentucky. Rival businesses began offering guided cave tours, intensifying the competition. Disappointed by the Crystal Cave's financial struggle, Floyd set his sights on a different cave nearby, one that would ultimately seal his tragic fate. This one was called the Sand Cave, located on farmer Beasley Doyle's property, and from an initial inspection, it seemed promising for Floyd's entrepreneurial ambitions. He agreed to collaborate with Beasley to turn it into a destination everyone would want to visit. On January 30th, 1925, Floyd entered Sand Cave with only a kerosene lamp, embarking on a perilous journey through tight and treacherous passageways. Inside, he made a remarkable discovery. He found a subterranean coliseum standing roughly 80 feet high. Excitement gave way to desperation when Floyd's lamp flickered and he accidentally dislodged a 17-pound rock, pinning his leg and trapping him. It wasn't until a day later that Beasley's son, Jewel, stumbled upon the trapped Floyd. Quickly, droves of people gathered at the cave's mouth. The situation garnered national attention, with engineers, geologists, fellow cavers, and miners attempting various methods to free Floyd. However, their efforts proved futile, as they could only reach him but not extract him. Floyd's well-being took a turn for the worse on February 4th when part of the cave ceiling collapsed, further isolating him from everyone else. Then on the 16th of the same month, rescuers traversing the newly excavated shaft discovered Floyd's lifeless body. Examination of his remains revealed that he had died from exhaustion and starvation. Ironically, this event revolving around Floyd's death turned Crystal Cave into a popular attraction. Now, you may be asking where the mystery is. Well, in 1929, there was a thief who attempted to steal Floyd's body. Police were ultimately able to find and recover his corpse with the help of bloodhounds. However, the corpse was missing a leg, and this was actually the second attempt made to steal Floyd's body. Whether or not these two attempts were made by the same person is unknown, and we have no idea why someone even wanted his body. Floyd Collins was given a quote-unquote proper burial in 1989 at the Mammoth Cave Baptist Church. This entry examines a case from 1936 in Pavlodar, Kazakhstan, shedding light on one of the first documented reports of a so-called high-tech humanoid, or in other words, a human with technology that wasn't consistent with the time period. Reports of flying humanoid entities have a long and varied history, with the earliest depictions centering on beings like angels or creatures like man-bats. But in 1936, there were reports of a technologically oriented flying human in Pavlodar, Kazakhstan. 15-year-old Laznaya was on her way to school one winter morning when she found herself face to face with a peculiar sight. As she crossed onto an isolated path, she spotted a medium-sized man in black overalls hovering in the sky. Additionally, he was wearing a black helmet that obscured his face. Strapped to the person's back was an oval-shaped rucksack, which emitted a distinctive low rumbling noise. What began as a fascination quickly turned into sheer terror as the jetpack man abruptly changed directions, heading straight towards Laznaya. In a panic, she frantically swung her head in every direction, seeking refuge, but she was stranded in the middle of a snowbank with nowhere to run. Fortunately, the jetpack man vanished from her sight, leaving her in a state of confusion and shock. This encounter challenges conventional explanations, as jetpack technology was far from existence in the 1930s. So, what exactly did she see that day? On January 6, 1991, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the missing persons case of Terry Slagenhaupt began to unfold. Terry was a 28-year-old woman with a tumultuous past. She decided to set out one day, leaving behind her roommate in their North St. Clair Street apartment. Terry returned home that evening after her date, with plans to be picked up for a job interview the following day. Her roommate recalls Terry mentioning a quick trip to a nearby convenience store, which was a routine occurrence due to the lack of a phone inside of their apartment. However, on that fateful night, Terry never returned. Her abrupt disappearance raised immediate concerns, and her loved ones grew increasingly worried as days without word from Terry turned into weeks. Terry's backstory paints a picture of struggle. She hailed from Aspinwall, Pennsylvania, and her history was marred by alcohol abuse, which began as early as the 10th grade. Despite multiple stints in rehabilitation, she continued to battle her demons, often relapsing. Her relationship with her mother bore the scars of her addiction, but they still maintained contact, with Terry reaching out on holidays and birthdays. Her mother's last memory of Terry was during Christmas in 1990 when she visited with a mysterious man. Terry had plans to reunite with her brother on January 8th, but her absence was glaring. Her roommate informed her brother that Terry had not been seen for days. Investigators did suspect foul play, however, with the lack of evidence, it was hard to get the investigation going. Additionally, there were no witnesses who came forward saying that they saw Terry before her disappearance. Terry's mother believes her daughter is still alive, harboring hope that she would never vanish without a trace. Yet, further investigation has only deepened the mystery surrounding Terry's disappearance. In the spring of 1920, a serene North Dakota community was jolted awake by a gruesome discovery that would go down in history as one of the most chilling murder cases that the state has ever seen. The Wolf family farm, once a picture of rural tranquility, became the epicenter of a horrifying crime scene, leaving the town of Turtle Lake in shock. John Kraft, a passing neighbor, stumbled upon the oddly unsettling sight of laundry flapping endlessly on the Wolf family's clotheslines. It was a windy, soggy April day when Kraft decided to investigate, never suspecting the sinister secrets that awaited him. What he uncovered was a scarring scene. The lifeless bodies of Jacob Wolf, 2 of his young daughters, and 5 others lay strewn about the farm, bearing the hallmarks of a gruesome massacre. The only survivor was a frail 8-month-old baby, the lone witness to the tragedy that had unfolded here. This set off a manhunt that gripped North Dakota in fear and fascination. Jacob Wolf, a respected and prosperous farmer, had seemed an unlikely target for such violence. While some friction with a neighbor had been noted, it was far from a motive for the heinous crime that had taken place. Sheriff Ul Steferud and McClellan County State's Attorney John E. Williams led the charge in solving the case. There was a prevailing belief among investigators that murderers often returned to the scene of their crimes, prompting a vigilant watch over the Wolf farm. Suspicion soon fell on a man named Henry Lair, a neighbor who appeared during the surveillance. Lair's odd behavior, which included bizarre suggestions during the investigation, raised eyebrows. He claimed to have found shotgun shells in the barn, among other things. As the investigation continued, a growing crowd of investigators and onlookers descended upon the farm. Panic had gripped the community, and the pressure on law enforcement to apprehend the culprit was immense. Henry Lair's arrest came about through a cunning ruse, as officers staged a fake fugitive scenario. Under relentless questioning, Lair ultimately confessed to the murders, offering a harrowing account of an argument that escalated into violence. He claimed that the initial shotgun discharge had been accidental, and he lost control of his actions afterward. However, many aspects of Lair's confession left investigators and theorists puzzled. Inconsistencies with the crime scene and details from Lair that didn't quite add up raised doubts about the authenticity of his confession. Was Lair truly the cold-blooded killer he admitted to being, or had he been coerced into a confession under duress? Authorities were facing major backlash from the community for not yet finding a killer, so it's not exactly out of the realm of possibility for authorities to arrest the first viable suspect. Lair's apparent hazy memory of the events leading up to the murders fueled speculation. Some argued that the crime scene suggested a different narrative, one that didn't align with the confession. The Wolf family murders remain shrouded in mystery to this day. While Henry Lair was sentenced to life imprisonment at hard labor and eventually passed away, questions persist about what truly happened on that April day in 1920. Many people are of the opinion that Henry was wrongfully convicted, leaving room for debate and further inquiry into this chilling chapter of North Dakota's history. Alberto Gordoni's disappearance and reappearance is truly baffling. Residing in Catania, Sicily in the mid-18th century, Alberto was not a man of extraordinary fame, but a respected artisan and gardener in his community, living a modest life. Little did he know that one day in May of 1753, his life would be changed forever. Our story begins in the bustling town square of Catania. Alberto was strolling through the square when, in a bewildering turn of events, he simply vanished into thin air. This perplexing occurrence unfolded before the eyes of numerous stunned witnesses, leaving them in a state of disbelief. Immediate efforts were launched to locate Alberto, with concerned townsfolk meticulously scouring the area and examining nearby houses. Their extensive search efforts yielded no trace of Alberto. Equally baffling was the absence of any discernible ditches or voids into which he could have fallen into. It appeared as though this unassuming man had existed one moment and in the next had vanished from the earthly realm entirely. Days turned into weeks, weeks to months, months to years, with no sign of Alberto. As time went on, the memory of him gradually faded from the collective consciousness of the town residents. Yet, after a staggering 22 years had passed, Alberto suddenly reappeared at the very spot where he had vanished. To the amazement of those who remembered him, he appeared virtually unchanged in age. However, the most perplexing aspect of his return was his adamant assertion that he had never disappeared and that those 22 years had not elapsed for him. It took several additional years before Alberto would confide in a local priest named Mario, finally shedding light on the baffling events that had transpired. According to Alberto, on the day he vanished, he had encountered a shimmering tunnel. With an otherworldly curiosity, he ventured into it and was transported into a surreal and incomprehensible world. Inside this unknown realm, Alberto found himself surrounded by inexplicable objects and peculiarities. He described a canvas-like surface adorned with stars and pulsating dots, with a singular ethereal figure with long hair standing right in front of him. This figure revealed that Alberto had unwittingly stumbled into a crack of time and space, making his return a tough challenge. The long-haired entity also spoke of souls existing without flesh and cities that floated among the skies, inhabited by eternally youthful beings. Priest Mario was convinced of the authenticity of Alberto's incredible story. Together, they revisited the location of Alberto's initial disappearance, and to their astonishment, Alberto vanished once more. This time, however, he never returned. There was no reappearance after years and even decades. Witnessed by Mario himself, this event prompted him to make the sign of the cross and designate the location as the Devil's Trap. This ruling came as a result of the man's audacious attempt to stow away on a China Airlines flight destined for Palau. The mystery surrounding the suspect's identity persists as he adamantly refuses to speak or furnish any form of ID. This presents a formidable challenge for authorities tasked with determining his nationality, a crucial factor in getting the man home following the completion of his jail term. The court's decision to impose a 5-month sentence takes into account the 4 months that the suspect has already spent in detention. As such, he may be required to serve only 1 additional month before his release. During the investigation into the November 2nd incident, the suspect received assistance from an Orthodox priest who acted as an intermediary. The suspect's mode of communication during this period was primarily through drawings. These shed light on his unwavering determination to reach Palau, the ultimate destination of the China Airlines flight he attempted to board. The stowaway incident was brought to the forefront when the suspect boldly decided to ascend the landing gear of an aircraft. Fortunately, the vigilant pilot of a South Korean Asian Airlines plane, which was behind the China Airlines plane, spotted the suspect and promptly alerted airport authorities. Swift and efficient action by the authorities culminated in the suspect's arrest before he could successfully gain entry into the aircraft. As this singular case continues to evolve, the identity of this man remains elusive, but the court's recent sentencing decision marks a significant milestone in resolving the incident. A story that blurs the line between the supernatural and the natural is that of Christopher Case's strange death. Chris was a 35-year-old man living in Seattle, Washington, whose encounter with a mysterious woman took a chilling turn in 1991. Chris's story began during a business trip to San Francisco. There, he crossed paths with a woman who shared his deep passion for ancient music. However, what was initially an evening of conversations quickly morphed into something far more sinister. The woman, whose identity remains unknown, made unwanted romantic advances towards Christopher. Unperturbed by his rejection, she took an unnerving turn. She revealed herself as a witch and cast a curse upon him, foretelling his death within a week. Chris understandably was a little rattled from this encounter. He sought solace and advice from a close friend named Sammy Soder, who supposedly possessed psychic abilities. After receiving a disturbing vision, Sammy chose not to share the details, deepening this mystery. Over the following days, Christopher's life took a harrowing turn. He began hearing whispers and the sounds of footsteps in his apartment. He confided in his friends about nighttime attacks, waking up with unexplained cuts and blood. The situation escalated rapidly, with Christopher leaving a desperate message, hinting that his days were numbered. As he counted down to the 7th day, his friends grew increasingly alarmed by his accounts of unexplained phenomena. It was on the ominous 7th day that a concerned friend finally contacted the authorities for a wellness check on Christopher. When officers arrived at Chris's apartment in April of 1991, they were met with a scene that defied rational explanation. Crucifixes adorned the walls, burned down candles littered the apartment, and lines of salt had been meticulously poured along the base of the walls. In the dry bathtub, they discovered Chris's lifeless body. In a turn that seemed to defy the supernatural narrative, medical examiners concluded that Christopher's cause of death was acute myocarditis, a condition marked by inflammation of the heart muscle. The official verdict was heart failure, a far cry from the ominous curses and paranormal encounters that had been recounted. Accounts from Chris's friends shed further light on his descent into darkness. A woman from Fayetteville, North Carolina, whose identity was not disclosed, revealed that Christopher had confided in her about the witch's curse. According to her, the curse was cast because Chris had rejected the witch's advances. Despite her concern, she stated that there was no sign of a crime, violence, robbery, or foul play involved. That psychic and friend we mentioned earlier, named Sammy, disclosed that Chris had shared his fears with her in several phone calls leading up to his demise. She emphasized that Chris had been stable and healthy, and he had not previously exhibited any belief in witchcraft. She had advised him to seek help for his escalating fears. And it should go without saying, Chris didn't have any issues in his medical history. So, was his death all a coincidence, or was this lady actually a witch? And who even was she? For over 6 decades, the Boknis Eck Marine Observatory has been a cornerstone of oceanic research in the Baltic Sea. However, in a surprising turn of events, the observatory's data transmissions abruptly ceased. Upon dispatching divers to investigate, researchers were met with an unsettling discovery. The remote sensors responsible for data measurements had been forcibly removed. Herman Bonge, the coordinator of Boknis Eck from Geomar, recounted the incident, stating, "On August 21st at 8:15 p.m., it stopped the data transmission. Initially, the team suspected a mere transmission error, but the divers' findings on the seabed painted a much grimmer picture. When they reached the observatory's location, they discovered only the torn-off land cable, utterly shredded. The missing equipment includes 2 large racks, one weighing 550 pounds, meant to supply power to the monitoring station via a land cable, and the other weighing 220 pounds, housing critical sensors. Due to their substantial size and weight, experts find it unlikely that storms, currents, or large marine mammals could have dislodged them. Law enforcement agencies have initiated an investigation into the disappearance of this equipment, estimated to be valued at over $300,000 USD. But researchers emphasize that the data it provides is priceless. Herman expressed, "At first, we tried to find the devices with our own research and other diving applications, so far without success. That's why we would be very happy about any hints." He further suggested that someone may have observed something unusual at a nearby campsite on August 21st or found parts of the equipment frames on the beach. The story of Huang Yanqiu's 3 mysterious disappearances would captivate the nation and become one of China's most famous unsolved mysteries. On the evening of July 27th, 1977, Huang had just completed his daily farm work and retired to his unfinished home. He was 21 years old, recently engaged, and planned for a quiet and simple future with his fiancée. However, the morning of July 28th brought along a startling change. The young farmer had vanished without a trace. The village was thrown into turmoil as they initiated a massive search operation, scouring the countryside, contacting hospitals and police, all to no avail. Then a little over a week later, on August 6th, an unexpected telegram arrived in Dongbeigao, which is the name of the small village that Huang lived in. The telegram was from Shanghai and revealed that Huang was held at a deportation center awaiting pickup. The astounding part was that the telegram dated July 28th at 9 a.m., meaning it was issued shortly after Huang's disappearance. He was eventually returned to the village by Shanghai police. The villagers eagerly asked Huang what had happened, and his account had them utterly confused. He claimed to have gone to bed only to wake up amidst the hustle and bustle of Nanjing, which was over 485 miles from his village. The time frame of his journey, less than half a day, defied the limits of available transportation. Then on September 8th, during the harvest season, Huang disappeared yet again. His home was found empty with a cryptic message carved into his bedroom wall: Shandong Gao Den Min Gao Yanjin Relax. Just as before, Huang was found in Shanghai, and this time witnesses from both Shanghai and his village could testify to his presence in both locations. Yet Huang remained unable to explain how he traversed such vast distances in impossibly short durations. But somehow, Huang's story just continues, with a third disappearance commencing on September 20th. After a day of labor, Huang collapsed in his yard. After being returned home, he would not be seen again until the 28th, with yet another story that defied reason. According to Huang, after losing consciousness, he awoke in a luxury hotel room. Two men, the same individuals from his prior disappearances, introduced themselves as Gao Dengmin and Gao Yanjin. And if you remember, these are also the same names that were carved into Huang's wall. They claimed responsibility for his vanishing acts and revealed their plan to take him to 9 major Chinese cities over the course of 9 days. Huang claimed that they possessed the ability to fly at astonishing speeds, taking him to cities such as Beijing, Tianjin, Nanjing, and many more, all within an hour. Over the years, various theories and accusations have been thrown around. Some suggested sleepwalking, but the logistics of this theory face significant challenges. Multiple personality disorder was also considered, but ultimately dismissed for a lack of evidence. And of course, UFO involvement and military experimentation were also proposed, but they lacked any sort of concrete proof. And obviously, there's the possibility that Huang simply lied about the entire thing. In the realm of cryptids, sea serpents have long captured the imagination of sailors and scientists alike. Among the various classifications of sea serpents, one remains shrouded in mystery: the giant invertebrates. This unique category, first conceptualized by Bernard Uwillems and expanded upon by Michael Woodley, encompasses an assortment of bizarre marine organisms. Unlike their better-known sea serpent counterparts, giant invertebrates have largely escaped the spotlight, despite intriguing and perplexing encounters in our oceans. Perhaps the most intriguing encounter with a giant invertebrate occurred around 1961 to 1962, when the Shell Oil Company's underwater robots captured footage of an unidentified marine entity dubbed Marvin off the coast of Santa Barbara. This creature, estimated to be 15 feet in length and 6 inches in diameter, exhibited a unique corkscrew or spiral motion. Witnesses aboard the drilling ship were captivated over the live feed. The mysterious creature graced the crew with its presence for over an hour. Marine biologists in Los Angeles grappled with identifying Marvin. Speculations ran rampant, but the limited footage offered no conclusive answers. To this day, Marvin remains an unclassified marine creature, adding yet another layer to the mysterious world of underwater sea creatures. In 2015, John Lang embarked on a mission to expose what he believed was harassment and intimidation orchestrated by powerful authorities in Fresno, California. His journey unfolded on his YouTube channel, Lang Marine, where he documented his allegations of being targeted due to comments he made in a local newspaper regarding corruption and alleged illegal activities. Among the issues he highlighted was a license plate scanning scam motivated by profit and primarily affecting the city's less fortunate residents. Lang's quest for transparency and accountability led him to install multiple CCTV cameras around his property. He regularly uploaded footage to his channel, revealing instances where individuals, including Fresno police personnel, were caught lurking outside his home at odd hours. Lang also reported instances of tampering with his door locks and computer devices, which he perceived as part of a prolonged campaign of harassment and intimidation. These experiences persisted for nearly 6 months. Initially, some dismissed Lang's claims as ramblings of a paranoid or mentally unwell individual. However, the situation took a tragic turn when, just 4 days after his last video upload, John Lang was discovered dead in his burning home. A local newspaper reported his death as a result of a fire, but the official police reports offered a starkly different narrative. According to law enforcement, Lang had 3 self-inflicted stab wounds to his chest and had also set the fire himself. The discrepancy between the initial reports and the official police findings raised eyebrows, prompting speculation about the true nature of Lang's demise. Comment sections on Lang's YouTube channel became a breeding ground for discussions that challenged the official account, with some commenters suggesting that he may have been murdered rather than having taken his own life. The mysterious means surrounding John's death have fueled ongoing controversy and debates about the case. The Ossett murder case of 1974 is an incident that stands out for not only its brutality, but also for the creepy circumstances that surrounded it. Michael Taylor, an unassuming butcher from Ossett, West Yorkshire, became the central figure in a harrowing tale of alleged demonic possession, an exorcism gone awry, and a gruesome murder. Michael and his wife Christine led a simple life in Ossett. The couple was not particularly religious, but a sense of community drew them to the Gobber Christian Fellowship group. Trouble started brewing when Christine, with a concerned look in her eyes, revealed to the group that she believed her husband was having an inappropriate relationship with the group's leader, Mary Robinson. She alleged that there was a quote-unquote carnal dimension to it, setting the stage for an ominous chain of events. Deep inside of him, Michael felt an evil presence growing stronger. As tensions escalated, he confronted Mary in a heated exchange that left everyone in the fellowship group on edge. Little did they know that this confrontation was just the beginning. With Michael's behavior spiraling out of control, the local vicar felt compelled to take action. He summoned Father Peter Vincent, an Anglican priest from the St. Thomas Church, and enlisted the assistance of Reverend Raymond Smith. Together, they embarked on an arduous journey to rid Michael of his apparent demonic possession. In early October of 1974, the old stone walls of St. Thomas's Church witnessed an otherworldly battle. In an all-night ceremony, the ministers invoked and cast out an astonishing 40 demons, including those associated with the darkest of sins. Exhausted but resolute, they believed they had purged the malevolence, yet they still feared that 3 demons lingered within Michael: insanity, murder, and violence. The next day, as Michael and Christine returned home, an unspeakable transformation overcame him. The sinister forces that had haunted him had influenced Michael to commit a horrific act of brutality. Michael turned on his wife with savagery. Using only his bare hands, he tore out Christine's eyes and tongue and proceeded to take the life of their pet poodle in a similar manner. A concerned passerby discovered a blood-soaked, nude Michael Taylor in the streets of Ossett. The gruesome scene prompted a swift response from the authorities. The courtroom drama that followed was as surreal as the events themselves. Michael faced trial and was acquitted on the grounds of insanity. He was committed to the grim confines of Broadmoor Hospital for 2 long years before spending an additional 2 years in a secure ward in Bradford. This unsettling murder case, with its blend of alleged demonic possession and a heinous murder, became a legend that continued to intrigue and perplex. Was Michael Taylor truly possessed by evil demons, or is there a much more grounded explanation? Michael was described as never having any ill will towards anyone, so what made him brutally attack his dog and his beloved wife? There are many stories that defy explanation, leaving behind more questions than answers the deeper the investigators get. Such is the case with the vanishing of Mary Ann Adams and her son Jack in the desolate reaches of Cockle Creek, Tasmania back in 1908. This strange tale has remained largely obscured, but its unusual circumstances and lingering mysteries continue to intrigue those who stumble upon it. Mary Ann Adams was a widow who had spent the majority of her life along the rugged coastline of southern Tasmania. Her son, aged 22, had both physical and mental disabilities, necessitating her almost constant attention. On May 5, 1908, accompanied by their faithful dog, they embarked on what seemed to be a routine chore, fetching a missing cow. Little did they know that this would be the last time anyone saw them. Despite an extensive search effort involving approximately 100 individuals, no trace of Mary, her son, or any clue to their fate was ever uncovered. The wilderness seemed to have swallowed them whole, leaving behind an eerie silence that only deepened the mystery. A breakthrough of sorts occurred when a grandson of Mary's unearthed a box containing the remains of a dog. The dog's striking resemblance to the one that had accompanied Mary and her son on the day they went missing raised hopes that this discovery might finally provide some closure to the decades-old mystery. This finding prompted the Metropolitan Superintendent of Police to launch a fresh investigation, focusing on how the dog met its end and whether it was indeed the same companion of the missing pair. If it was the same dog, how exactly did it perish after its owners vanished? Several aspects of this case have confused investigators and continue to intrigue those who delve into its history. Firstly, the idea that Mary and her son might have fallen into a creek was considered but ultimately dismissed due to the shallow waters and the presence of logs. Moreover, Mary's son had significant physical limitations and was prone to epileptic fits. A doctor believed it was unlikely for him to venture far of his own free will. He was also known to be greatly fond of the dog, and they had a very close relationship. Another puzzling element was the family surroundings. Mary had lived in the area for most of her life and was thus very familiar with the terrain. Additionally, there were neighbors nearby, so if she was in trouble, she could have just screamed out to them. It is challenging to comprehend how she and her son could have become disoriented in an area they knew well. Because of this, many investigators think foul play was involved. William Adams, one of Mary's other sons, joined the search efforts as soon as he learned of his mother and brother's disappearance. William and another man continued to return to Mary's cottage regularly, hoping to attract the dog back with a fire's glow, but to no avail. Mary's home was also left in perfect order with no signs of disarray or disturbance. Years later, the house was destroyed by fire, and then that's when William's son, by some odd twist of fate, unearthed the remains of that dog. The disappearance of Mary and Jack remains an obscure and confusing event. Despite the numerous search efforts and the discovery of the dog's remains, the fate of the missing pair remains unknown. The Zaragoza Goblin is a case that captivated the imagination of 1930 Spain. In September of 1934, the tranquil streets of Zaragoza bore witness to an inexplicable phenomenon that brought together police, the military, and international press, all summoned to confront the strange voice of a goblin dwelling within a residential stove. This odd occurrence continues to baffle historians and paranormal enthusiasts alike. It all began on an ordinary day on September 27, 1934, within the Palazan family's second-floor apartment. The Palazans found themselves confronted by an odd presence, a voice that emanated from the walls of their kitchen, specifically from their stove and its chimney. The strangeness of the voice stemmed from the fact that it seemed to belong to a male figure and was not confined solely to that single family's kitchen. Intriguingly, when the Palazans sought help from their neighbors, the voice continued to manifest itself, compelling a growing number of witnesses to acknowledge its existence. Word rapidly spread about the haunting in the neighborhood, and while some dismissed it as a prank, others perceived the presence as that of a duende or elf/goblin. Local interest in the peculiar attraction reached a fever pitch, and curious onlookers crowded around the Palazan's home in a bid to catch a snippet of the entity speaking. Eventually, the family turned to authorities for help. The police were hesitant at first, but took them up on the request after local hysteria mounted to unreasonable heights. The investigation started at the stove, but police were shocked when they were met with a resilient and uncanny voice that answered their questions with eerie accuracy. In December of 1934, the governor issued a statement that shocked Zaragoza. He accused the Palazan family's young maid, Pasquala, of being the culprit. The governor stated that the voice was a result of unconscious ventriloquism. The maid vehemently denied any involvement in this event. With no evidence to warrant an arrest and a lack of interest in pursuing one, the maid was allowed to return home. The building was demolished in 1977, and the new structure that stands in its place bears the name Goblin Building. While some believe the goblin to be a hoax, others believe there was truly something supernatural occurring in the home. One evening around 6 p.m., a widow's 8-year-old daughter named Elizabeth was busy playing around in the cotton fields. Her mother's name was Patsy Reeves. Their home was not that far from the prominent landmark known as Chimney Rock. It was during this seemingly ordinary moment that Elizabeth made a startling discovery that she shared with her older brother Morgan. She claimed that she had spotted a man on Chimney Rock. At first, Morgan did not believe her, but Elizabeth just kept on insisting that she was sure there was someone up there. In fact, they were gathering what seemed like sticks and rolling rocks downhill. She also stated that there were actually a multitude of people up there. Morgan was now overcome with curiosity and decided to venture out to the cotton fields to investigate. Morgan didn't see any people, but the sight that he found was probably even stranger. There were thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of objects soaring through the air. But the strange events and sightings did not end there. All of this commotion attracted the attention of Patsy's 4-year-old as well as another resident in the area. All of Patsy's kids as well as that resident visited the fields, which also made Patsy curious, and they were graced with the presence of a vast assembly of beings. Patsy said that they resembled humans and donned radiant white attire. There were no discernible indications of gender and their forms lacked any distinct features. They ranged drastically in size, with some resembling a male in height and build, while another was as small as an infant. For over an hour, these beings moved in a particular pattern which captivated the onlookers. When Patsy finally realized the gravity of the situation, she urgently went to send a message to a local resident named Robert Searcy, as well as other neighbors. When they all arrived, they too were shocked at what they were seeing. Many are skeptical that this even happened, while others look to this event as proof that extraterrestrial life has visited Earth. Julie Doe was the name of a transgender woman found dead in 1988 in Claremont, Florida. For decades, her true identity remained unknown as investigators initially believed she was a cisgender woman. It wasn't until 2015 that DNA testing revealed her biological male origin. One day in September of 1988, a resident of Claremont stumbled upon a shocking sight in the woods near Highway 474. There lay Julie Doe, a victim who had met a mysterious end. Her body, naturally mummified over time, had been concealed in the underbrush for approximately 8 months. Julie's appearance added complexity to her story. Standing between 5 feet 9 inches and 5 feet 11 inches tall, she was estimated to be in her early 20s to mid 30s. Investigators initially believed Julie to be a cisgender woman, but Julie's origins took an unexpected turn in 2015. DNA testing revealed that the pelvic trauma she had endured was not from childbirth as previously assumed, but from genital reassignment surgery. Julie's death bore haunting clues. It appeared as though she had been dragged off the highway and concealed in the woods. Her skirt was found partially removed, suggesting a possible sexual assault. The circumstances surrounding her death raised suspicions of foul play, yet the cause of it remained elusive. Isotope testing added another layer to Julie's story. The results indicated a strong connection to southern Florida, suggesting that she had spent a significant portion of her life in that region. In 2018, the DNA Doe Project took up Julie's case, driven by a determination to unravel the mystery once and for all. Despite numerous challenges, including multiple unsuccessful attempts to extract her DNA, the organization continues to raise funds and explore every avenue to bring justice to Julie's existence. The case of the 2014 disappearance of 43 students in southern Mexico continues to be a haunting and unresolved tragedy. Developments have brought new attention to the case, shedding light on the complexities and challenges surrounding this deeply troubling incident. On September 26, 2014, security forces intercepted a group of students in Iguala, abducting them from buses and turning them over to a local gang. The motive behind this shocking act remains unclear, but evidence has emerged suggesting possible collusion between police, military, and traffickers. Over the years, investigations into the case have faced numerous setbacks and controversies. At the heart of these challenges lies the lack of cooperation and transparency from key actors, including the Mexican armed forces. International panels of experts appointed to probe the case have repeatedly voiced frustration at the military's unwillingness to cooperate, with accusations of false information and evidence concealment. The narrative surrounding the disappearance has undergone significant changes. An earlier version of events, known as the historical truth, laid blame solely on local police officials and organized crime. However, this version was discredited by the international panel's work, emphasizing the importance of impartial investigations. President Obrador pledged to solve the case and provide closure to the victims' families during his 2018 campaign. While some arrests have been made, convictions have been tough, leaving the families in search of justice and answers. Reports indicated the detention of 8 soldiers linked to the case. At one point, the Attorney General's office faced criticism for canceling arrest orders for various suspects, including members of the military. The reasons behind these cancellations were not explained, raising concerns about the handling of the case. So this entry is kind of more like a conspiracy theory / Mandela effect. The story of the 2006 volleyball incident is a captivating riddle. Before we actually dive into this one, it's important to acknowledge the obscurity surrounding it. References to this event stretch back several years, but given its alleged occurrence in 2006, many skeptics dismissed it as a fabrication. However, as we'll soon discover, outright dismissal may not be warranted. The narrative itself is surprisingly straightforward yet disturbing. According to accounts, a shooting or bombing occurred during a school volleyball event held in one of several US states, including Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Utah, Oregon, or Montana. Shockingly, it's reported that approximately 17 to 24 lives were lost during this event. Now, there are people who believe that there was a comprehensive cover-up where any mention of the shooting / bombing vanished from public records, and the victims seem to have faded from the collective memory of their families and friends. The methods employed to achieve this astonishing feat vary depending on whom you ask. Some contend that hush money was distributed to the families and friends to ensure their silence. Those who dared to speak about the event allegedly faced dire consequences. Others propose a more psychological explanation, suggesting that anyone with any connection to the victims endured repeated abuse, leading to a sort of enforced amnesia or quote-unquote programming. Again, the identities of those involved have been completely wiped, which makes some believe that this is a possible Mandela effect, where many people believed something occurred when in reality it didn't, or at least not in the way that they remember it. Now, while we could just shut down this mystery right here, there are many internet sleuths that believe there is a wealth of information on this topic available on places like the dark web. And just to save you guys some time, there really isn't much information out there on this no matter where you look. Some people were able to find occasional discussions where investigators try and find out who were the culprits. One theory suggests that this entire thing was a social experiment staged by the government and everyone involved was just an actor. Another theory proposes that this was just mixed up with the Platte Canyon High School hostage crisis in 2006 in Bailey, Colorado. It was September 27th when 53-year-old Dwayne Morrison took 6 high school girls hostage and assaulted them. All of the hostages were able to escape except for one. Emily Keyes was tragically shot in the head, leading to her death. Dwayne then shot himself in the head. Nestled on the picturesque west coast of Washington state, a quiet town near Coppolis Beach was the backdrop for a series of events that unfolded in the mid-1960s, leaving a family shaken and their home in shambles. This entry revolves around a man named John, his wife Sue, and their 2 young boys, John Jr. and Timothy. John Sr., a responsible foreman at a roofing products mill, was renowned for his seriousness and commitment to his job. His reputation for being level-headed made the events that transpired all the more bewildering. It all began when Timothy claimed to have encountered a bizarre figure he referred to as the Cowman. His initial description puzzled John as he assumed it was merely a neighbor or passerby wearing cowboy attire. However, Timothy's vivid recount of the encounter, describing a creature covered in fur and emanating a pungent odor, raised eyebrows and triggered concern within the family. Suspicion grew when John Jr. or JJ expressed feeling like he was being trailed through the woods. The family's collective apprehension and curiosity led them to explore the area near their home. They stumbled upon a tangled clump of reddish-brown coarse hair caught in the barbed wire fence, along with a small piece of flesh. The hair bore a striking resemblance to that of a horse's tail. Their investigation ultimately led them to the nearby woods, where they encountered a massive 7-foot-tall creature with piercing red eyes, standing upright on 2 legs, emitting a snarling human-like expression. A tense standoff followed, concluding with the creature vanishing into the wilderness. The family locked themselves indoors that night. However, they swore they heard siren-like cries coming from the woods. John Sr. enlisted the help of his colleague Patrick. Together, they discovered unsettling clues, including a large footprint and strange markings around their home. The barn on their property held an air of foreboding, and John couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Despite their extensive search, no answers emerged. The climax of the story came when the beast decided to confront the family inside of their home. The wife and mother, Sue, was forced to fire off her shotgun to protect her kids. The creature attempted to reach through a window but retreated after being wounded. This encounter unfortunately destroyed their home, and the family's life was irrevocably altered. Now, many are skeptical that there is a Bigfoot-like creature out there obviously, but the mystery of this cryptid's existence has intrigued the public for many years. Zigmund Adamski, aka Ziggy, was a 56-year-old coal miner who disappeared under mysterious circumstances from his home in Tingley, Yorkshire in June 1980. The subsequent discovery of his body on a coal pile in Todmorden, 20 miles from his residence, sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community and sparked a flurry of speculation. Ziggy was a Polish immigrant who made England his home after fleeing post-World War II Poland. His life was typical of many immigrants who sought refuge and built new lives in foreign lands. He worked diligently as a coal miner and was married to Leocadia, aka Lottie. However, Ziggy's health had deteriorated over the years due to lung deformities caused by coal dust exposure. One Friday afternoon, June 6, 1980, Ziggy embarked on what should have been a routine trip to the local shops. But this time would be his last. At around 3:30 p.m., he left his home on Hornfield Crescent and was never seen alive again. His wife was left with grave concerns during his initial disappearance. His colleagues at the coal mine were equally baffled at his vanishing. 5 days after his disappearance, the eerie mystery took a chilling turn. A coal yard worker named Trevor Parker stumbled upon Ziggy's lifeless body atop a 10-foot-high coal pile in Todmorden. Ziggy was found wearing a suit but was missing his shirt, watch, and wallet. Even more puzzling, his clothes appeared to be fastened improperly and his hair had been roughly cropped. There were several details that stumped investigators. Firstly, despite being found on a coal pile, there was no trace of coal dust on his body or clothes. This raised questions about how he ended up there and whether he had been placed there. Additionally, Ziggy had mysterious burns on the back of his head, neck, and shoulders. A green substance was also found on his body that could not be identified despite exhaustive forensic scrutiny. The coroner, James Turnbull, recorded an open verdict, citing a heart attack as the cause of death. However, the conditions leading to this heart attack and the events leading up to his murder are unknown. Over the years, various theories emerged to explain Ziggy's bizarre death. Some suggested alien abduction, positing that extraterrestrials had experimented on him before discarding his body. Some even believed that the Soviet Union's KGB kidnapped him for experimenting. So I was going back and forth on whether or not I wanted to include this one, and in the end I decided why not, as a sort of extra topic at the very end. So this mystery is probably one of the most famous ones in history, and I think the general consensus is that it's solved, ? But then again, it's one of those events with an explanation that some are probably not satisfied with, but you guys can be the judge at the very end. 1587 marked a pivotal year when a band of English colonizers led by the intrepid explorer John White made their landfall on Roanoke Island. Their arrival represented the second attempt to establish a permanent English colony in this new world. With the colony's prospects teetering on the brink, John White embarked on a fateful journey back to England, leaving behind his family on Roanoke Island. However, disaster struck when the escalating conflict with Spain rendered him unable to secure a return voyage. 3 long years later, White's return to the island unveiled an unsettling scene. The settlement, once teeming with life, now lay deserted, devoid of any inhabitants. His wife, daughter, and the rest of his family had all vanished without a trace. White and his crew launched a frantic search for any clues to their whereabouts, but found only the cryptic marking Croatoan etched into trees at the colony's border. No graves or bodies hinted at a calamity. Amidst impending storms, their investigation was abruptly halted, and they were compelled to depart the island for Plymouth. The Roanoke colony would never again be glimpsed by White or any other English voyagers. But the thing is, the mystery of the Roanoke colony was effectively solved as early as 1605 from the colonizers' perspective, and even earlier by neighboring Native Americans. When John White and his crew stumbled upon the abandoned settlement, their initial hypothesis was that the colonists had integrated with the indigenous population, a group better adapted to the region's challenges. In 1701, explorer John Lawson's observations confirmed this theory, revealing that several of the Native American descendants shared Caucasian traits. These revelations further validated the early suppositions that the English settlers had indeed merged with a local tribe. But again, this has been a long-standing quote-unquote answer to the mystery, yet many people still look at the Roanoke event as unsolved. So let me know what you think in the comments. That's going to end this video. Thank you so much if you made it all the way here. It means a lot to me that you spent the last hour or so watching or listening to this video. And if you did make it here, leave a mountain emoji and I'll leave you a heart. And on screen right now, you can see how I arranged the mysteries that we just went over in the Iceberg. This is based on obscurity, and if you disagree with any of these topics' placements, feel free to comment below, and that feedback will be used to edit the Iceberg in the next installments. If you have a mystery that you want to submit, check out the link to the Google form in the description. As always, I want to give a special thank you to all of my channel members and patrons for supporting me. Thank you to 4L60E, Adventure Ted, Bad Baphomet, Beck Walls, Cam Haha, Chaz It Up, Chris, Cody Grandman, Courtney Von Schriltz, Coy Jones, Derek Waterbury, David Veltman, Dip Shizzle, Evil Dead Bread, Flannery Rose, Giselle Sweet Moncour, Glitter Fleshgum, Grace, Greg, HaloFan234, Harley Deadmond, Hide Worry, Jackson W, Jacob Adams, John Thomas, Jay Huds, Joseph Virgin, Kent, King Mog, Lady Fang, Len, Liss Electro, MainAtom, Me4, Morgan Smith, Maui, Owl Yoop, Pedro Elizondo Jr., Ray Booney, Ray, Sally Bunce, Sarah Kruder, Sarah Richardson, Skylar Morris, Sophie Livingstone, Steve Sharofsky, Taylor Stone King, Tony Swanevelt, Typical Ethan, Victor Chmiel, Sasha Wise, -5 stars, Jerome Reuter, Synthrunner, Randvar, Aphotic Cthulhu, Alan Amaro, Neve, Mam Shiba 101, Astrid Yesing, and Low Life. Thank you all so much. If any of you guys would like to support the Patreon or the memberships, check out the link in the description. They both get you early access to the videos without ads, as well as access to exclusive videos which I will be rolling out in the future. For now, I think the only exclusive video up is the TCAP Part 4 video that's available only on Patreon. So that's all I got for y'all today. Take it easy, stay safe, and I hope you all have an amazing week.